All right, my son's got a hobby of growing these carnivorous plants here. Kind of cool. So I made him this little greenhouse. Put that together. The problem is, as you can see, it gets too hot in here, and every plant has at least some damage on it from the heat. And I knew it'd get hot in here. I just didn't think it would get hot in here the first couple of weeks of April. But even though it's kind of cool outside, it still gets hot in here. I got him a thermometer thing which measures temperature as well as humidity, as you can see there. But we need our humidity to be around what, 60%? 60%? And at about this temp. It could be warmer too. But so how are we going to do that? Well, I put the fan down here by this big pan of water, which works okay if you close the door, but if you close the door it gets too hot, and we're gonna try to fix that issue here. So I'm gonna try to build an evaporative cooler, which will do two things. It'll keep that little greenhouse cool and keep the humidity levels high. So I have these two buckets I picked up from Lowe's. There's two of them stacked together there. The lower bucket will be a reservoir. The upper one will be the chamber with the evaporative cooler pad with water dripping down it. And I got a bunch of parts in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can put one of these together. I haven't done this before, so it sounds like might take a few minutes. Nothing technically difficult though. Okay, well I put it together, just testing it, and I'll show you what I did here. Of course, as you can see, I got some wire here on the ground. I'm gonna have a plug in here, but right now I'm running an extension cord from outside. But we will have a plug. It's my next project. So right here, this tube here, because this bottom bucket is the reservoir. An evaporative cooler uses water because it evaporates off this pad right here. So this here is my water level indicator. In other words, I don't have to take this apart and look inside to see what the water level is. I just look at my tube I installed here. And so even from outside the little greenhouse, we'll be able to know how much water's in there. We'll see how long it takes to use water. There's this much water. I'm thinking it might be a day and a half to 2 days, but we'll find out. Of course, it'll depend on the humidity, in our area. This is the access to fill the bucket. So we'll just be dumping water in there. Put a little cap on, just kind of sits on there. So as the air goes through the pad and evaporates, it comes out with very humid and cool. And so I have a little thermometer here. The temperature in the greenhouse right now is, well, the sun's going down, it's about 70, and the temperature of the air coming out of this thing is right around 60. I think it was 58 when I first took it off. And how we force air down through here is with this fan. So this fan just sits on here, and I can lift it off. You can see down inside. So I have a little pond pump down there for like a little water feature. It's a cheapy one. It's seems to be working okay so far. The hose comes up through the elbow, tees off into a circle, and there's holes in the hose, and water drips out of the hose. It keeps the pad moist, and any water that the excess water just goes down through that hole there back into the reservoir. So that's how that works. If I end up changing fans because this one dies on me, I might have to get another lid from Lowe's and do that. The reason I chose this bucket so it'd be opaque, hoping to not get algae growing in there. So the we've had this on for less than 10 minutes, and the here we go. The humidity went from 22 to 50 here in just 10, well, less than 10 minutes, about 7 or 8 minutes. So what we're hoping is we can drive this humidity up to, what did you say, 60%, Dee Dee? Or close to 60% anyways. And I think that should be attainable. So there it goes to 51. So we'll see how we do, because I knew I was going to need some of this stuff, but I had no idea I would need it in April. So you can see a little bit of heat and sun damage on these, and that's why I tried to get this done as quickly as I could, because this is all my fault. I didn't understand how hot it would get in here in April when we don't even have really much full sun. So if you want to create a little evaporative cooler and humidifier for maybe a greenhouse or something, this is one possibility. You know, you can buy an evaporative cooler at most stores. Most of them are little, but the biggest problem is the amount of water that they hold. So I didn't want to, you know, feel like I had to come out and check on my water level and refill it every hour or two. So with this 5-gallon reservoir, I'm thinking that every day and a half or two, we'll find out, it will be how often I have to come out and refill it. And we can, as I said, check the level even from outside. You don't even need to come in. Just look at that tube right there through the side, and you can see how much water you got. Alright, so this is an inexpensive way to go, and probably better unless you spend several $100s in a large humidifier. So I have this greenhouse I put together for my youngest boy, and we've been having some issues with keeping it cool. So I wanted to bring you up to date on some trials and tribulations of a small backyard greenhouse owner. The greenhouse temperature, as we talked before, was a little hard to control. I made that little evaporative cooler out of the buckets, which worked fine until summer really came on and it got too hot, and it wasn't able to keep up. It was mostly an issue of airflow. That fan I had on there was not able to develop enough cubic feet per minute to keep it cool when demand, you know, for keeping the greenhouse, you know, from heating up too hot got too great. So I went ahead and I purchased a unit with a larger cubic feet per minute rating, which would be this fan right here, or this evaporative cooler. So the water comes in down there, and we have this bucket up here, which is the same one that we used before. Here's the filler cap I told you before, and here's our indicator tube showing how much water we have. The evaporative cooler itself has a reservoir in it for water, and this is where you fill in this little door right here. The issue is that when it's hot, it uses quite a bit of water, and more than the reservoir can hold in a single day. Thus, we hooked this reservoir up here, so now we have a larger volume of water available, and we've been able to make it all the way through the day without any issues. But as the temperature, ambient temperature, got to well above 90, like above 95, even this little evaporative cooler couldn't keep up with the heat coming in from the sun anymore. So I installed this little misting system, which works well. It's got a little timer on it here, and this is the pump, and I've got it attached to this little board so we can shift it around. And this water bottle here is its reservoir, and it does have a manual on-off switch, so I can push that. Oh, hang on, it's not plugged in. Hang on a second. Okay, so it's running now. I didn't have it plugged in. So it has this misting system, which you can see, which works really well. And that helps to cool things off a lot and keep the humidity up. But as it got hotter, because we're above 100 degrees almost every day here now, that wasn't able to keep up anymore either. So then I installed this little exhaust fan here. So I'll show you how this works. It sucks in air here and exhausts it right out of here. That seemed to work okay, well, like I say, but as the temperature remained at 100 or above, like 101, 102, even that then couldn't keep the greenhouse cool enough for the type of plants that we have in here. My boy says he needs the temperature to be right around 85. He's okay with 90 and even a little bit above 90, but he wants it to be, 70 to 85, or as close to there as we can get it, with about 60-65% humidity. Alright, so then I thought, okay, so I thought, well, this little water fountain thing which I had in the shed being unused would be helpful. And it did, especially at night when the evaporative cooler is not running. The little water fountain thing over here is able to keep the humidity up high enough. So my next modification will be to put a duct on here. So I'm gonna need to make a box with put a 4-inch hole in it and have a duct which pulls air right out of the top of the greenhouse. Sometimes we were able to keep the temperature down if we kept the door open with this fan running, but the problem is when it got above 100 degrees, even that wasn't too helpful, and then the humidity would fall. Because when the door's open, this fan is able to pull air probably more from the outside up this way than from the upper area of the greenhouse where all the heat is. So I'm going to make a duct to pull the heat from this area. It's 102 degrees outside, and I've got this fan ducted from deep inside the greenhouse to the outside, and I've been reporting that I was having the inability to keep this place cool enough to have the type of plants that are in here. So before I was having a hard time keeping it below 100, but with my current modification, I'm at 94 degrees and 38. It was a 40% humidity in here a while ago, so upper 30s, 40% humidity I've been able to maintain for these plants. This is my son's greenhouse, as I told you. I don't know what else I can do unless I have a way to shade this thing from the outside. There are no trees over here to shade it with. There's a tree just on the other side of the fence there. They pop up everywhere around here like weeds. They're awful. And it'll push the fence over, so I gotta go over, talk to the neighbor and tell him to get rid of that. Or alternatively, I could put an air conditioner in here, but which I've got a couple window air conditioners. My biggest problem with that is I have to cut a hole somewhere or duct the air in somehow, and I don't really want to do that. So someone may make a not really like an umbrella, but like some kind of a structure you could put on the sunny side of a greenhouse and shade it that way. But other than that, I think I have reached the limit of what I can do with its current setup. So, which my latest modification, if you remember, was I moved this duct, or I put a duct on a box and a duct on this fan. So instead of pulling air from over there close to the door, I pull it from the inside of the greenhouse up here where it's the hottest. So as of now, that's all I've been able to accomplish, unless I shade the greenhouse somehow from the outside, which I guess I need to think about how to do that. The duct, which will be 4 inches in diameter, needs a little box to hook up to, because as you can see, the bottom of this exhaust fan unit is just open. So it'll be a box kind of like this. So this ice cream sandwich box is my pattern, so I created a pattern. And how this works is you create the pattern that that your sheet metal is going to be, and then I'll get a piece of sheet metal and trace this out and cut it like this, and I should be able to fold it along these lines. Use that silver colored duct tape that heating and cooling contractors use, and then cut a hole here in the sheet metal and be able to attach this to the fan box up here. And I have my 4-inch duct coming out here and pull air from the hottest part of the greenhouse, which is up here, and we will see how that works. So since we had a hard time keeping the temperature controlled and the humidity controlled, for the last 2 weeks we've removed his plants from the greenhouse, since they're pretty specific about the humidity and temperature that they need. That means they're in the house. In the house is not the correct, it's close to the correct temperature, but certainly not the correct humidity, because here it's dry in the summer, especially when you got the air conditioner running in your house. Central air conditioning pulls water out of the air that's in the house and condenses out, and then drips out. So anyways, we're going to see if we can make a modification that is good enough to allow us to return to the greenhouse. As you can see, it's hot in here right now, too hot and too dry, but remember, my evaporative cooler is not even on right now, so there's no point in running it since we're not using it right now. So I'm going to make this modification to the exhaust fan that we talked about, install the duct, and then after that we will run the fan to pull the hottest air, which is at the top of the greenhouse here, out. Remember, ambient temperature air can come in through this vent. I'll show you. This little vent right here opens when it's warm and closes when it's cool. So it'll be able to pull air through there and out there. And of course that'll be 100-degree air that it's moving through there. And we're going to see if that allows us to control the temperature in our little greenhouse well enough to be able to put these kind of temperature sensitive plants back in here. Even local plants I think would have a little bit of trouble in here, but the plants that he's trying to grow in here are a little more sensitive, and that's pretty tough in the climate that we have in this area in the summer. So I'll put that together and using this pattern here, and then we'll take a look at it and see how it turns out. And then after that, we're gonna run it and run our evaporative cooler for a day or so and see if we can have confidence in our ability to keep the temperature down in the range that we want with the humidity near the range that's required. Alrighty, so we have the box made out of the sheet metal and put together with some of that tape I was telling you about, and it's all together and in place and working. So if you remember, there was a duct right here, or an opening, an inlet right here. No, there wasn't. The air was being sucked in through the bottom of this fan straight up and being blown out. Now I have this box with an inlet right here, and pulls air through this duct from the upper part of the greenhouse where it's the hottest. This has allowed us to return the plants to the greenhouse. Right now we're at 89 degrees and 51% humidity. So not too far out of range, and we'll see how we do.